Good day, I am Denzel Chetty and welcome to our third and final episode on Let's Talk Academic Integrity. In studio with me I have two of our MOOC coordinators or instructors, Tennyson Mukuchini, Professor in the College of Human Sciences at the University of South Africa, and Elnarine Greef, Senior Lecturer in the College of Human Sciences at the University of South Africa. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Although it's sad that this is our last show, but welcome back.
Thank you.
Both Tennyson and Elnarine, as you have noticed, are instructors in the MOOC entitled Academic Writing Fundamentals 101. Tennyson, let me begin with you. You've just finished this exciting week 2 on plagiarism. Can you briefly recap what were the themes that you focused on in week 2?
Thank you. Thanks, Denzel. We had a really exciting week, primarily because the topic of plagiarism is exciting. All of us have at some point committed this offense, knowingly or unknowingly. And as part of the course, we covered very, very specific elements that relate to plagiarism. Firstly, we spent some time defining it because basically one of the problems we noticed is that many people don't know they are plagiarizing. So we did that. Then we looked at types of plagiarism. And then we also covered ways in which people can utilize this knowledge that we shared with them so they can become much more aware of how to avoid the trappings of plagiarism.
Right. But from what you're saying, it's definitely not a localized issue. It's a global issue.
Absolutely.
And I know from your experiences, you've probably seen a lot of students in the global context, from the US, from the UK, from Africa. What are some of the mistakes that students make that lead them to this sort of plagiarism?
Thank you. I think I take us back to the fact that plagiarism appears in two guises. There's a group of people who don't know they are plagiarizing, and then there's a group of people who do know they are plagiarizing. So when we speak about mistakes, we are referring to the group of people who do not know.
Okay.
And the range of mistakes people are liable to make originate from the very fact that they actually have no idea about what academic integrity is. So that's the first mistake they make, that they enter study without any knowledge of the expectations of scholarship. So that's the first thing. Then beyond that, there are some technical things that students make mistakes with. The failure to appropriately reference things that they've directly quoted, failings with regard to people failing to point out where they have sourced materials from. There are also things to do with students failing or having difficulty with paraphrasing. This is the act of finding something and then changing it in some shape or form so it sounds better. Also, the other thing that we do is we place students under incredible pressure to sound as good as the books they read. So the closest way or the most efficient way that people think they can do that is to actually be the book. So it's increasingly challenging to separate one's voice from the voice of the content that you read.
I think that's a big problem. And I know, Elnarine, that your section in week 3 actually builds on this, the idea of referencing. How would you actually define referencing?
Well, referencing is both the act and the techniques of giving credit to the sources that you consulted in your writing. So as you are giving credit to your sources, you are also letting your readers know where you got the information from that you are presenting to them. It's also a bit of a differentiation between when you are writing in your own voice or giving your own opinion and when you are taking from others to build your argument. And that's actually something that we focus on in week 3 as well.
And I think that's a core skill, especially for developing further. Now, this problem is not, as we said earlier, is not an undergraduate problem. It's also a postgraduate issue as well. Now, Elnarine, what is the relationship between referencing and academic integrity?
Well, quite simply, you can't write with academic integrity if you don't reference, as taking from other sources and portraying that as your own ideas is intellectual theft.
Right.
Also, of course, I know that students very often, this boils down again to mistakes that we have picked up, not only from the students of this MOOC, but in our careers up to now, where students feel that this is general knowledge. Why should I reference it? Well, a lot that we take for general knowledge isn't actually general knowledge. And if each and every one of us really conceptualize the things that we spoke about, we would all be reinventing the wheel every week. And that's just not how it works. We build, literature actually works in this way, where we build on what others have done.
Right.
We stand on the shoulders of giants, as they say.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it's obviously a very progressive space, right? And I think, Tennyson, my last question comes to you based on your passion of digital spaces. If we look at the rapid advancements of technology, more especially over the past decade, there are more nuanced spaces for knowledge production. What would you consider, or how would you advise students consider legitimate knowledge spaces within this digital terrain?
Thank you. You know, there is no single answer to this. The first response I would say to them, they need to apply their mind. They need to apply their mind to the situation they're in. Think about this. These days, virtually every one of us could be a producer of knowledge. So you have a whole plethora of sources that are out there. People can, little child can decide to go and write something on Wikipedia if they so wish. And the grade and differential between things that are traditionally accepted and what we accept now has become wider and wider. So the sources that are out there are infinite. And because of that, anyone who reads anything has to apply some thinking time. You have to apply some circumspection and think about the fact that, is this source that I have in front of me really as reliable as I believe it to be? So we are expecting students to have the fortitude to think about that ahead of time. And beyond that, the fact that we now have an unparalleled access to the widest range of sources, it means that the chances of copying things and not acknowledging them have risen exponentially. And that is where the growing range of online resources starts to become problematic, because it exposes us to many more chances of plagiarism. And without actually having learners understand the difference between the correct way to reference and the incorrect way to take work without correctly attributing ownership, unless we get that attended to, we're heading for quite a downward and irretrievable downward slope.
Well, this 3 weeks has been really interesting. It's been great having you on the show. And just to recap, I mean, we went from week 1, which was basic preparation in essay writing, to week 2, dealing with the issue of plagiarism. And as we clearly found out, that this is not a local issue, it's a bigger issue than that. And I think the question of plagiarism is really core to academic integrity. And then week 3, we culminate with the issue of referencing. So I think this has been 3 good shows. And it's been really, really nice having you here. I think you've really contributed towards students getting much, much more knowledge on the subject itself. So this brings us to the end of our 3rd talk show. And I want to end with this quote by Aristotle, who says, "Humanity acquires a particular quality by constantly acting in a particular way." So let's make it count, and let's act in an academic integrity way that makes us proud. Thank you.